tell you something, brother. When I'm working on my 24-inch pythons, dude, I'm listening to Let's Find Out with Diego. Train, say your prayers, and listen to Let's Find Out with Diego. Ooh, what you gonna do, brother, when Let's Find Out with Diego runs wild on you?
Are you curious about the unknown, the unexplainable? Do you find yourself intrigued by the mysterious and paranormal side of our world? Join us on an adventure into the world of inexplicable discoveries and investigations that may someday give us the final answer as to what may be behind the veil of reality. The borders of space and time have opened once again, and transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's time once again for Let's Find Out with Diego. The universe is waiting for you.
The borders of space and time have opened once again, and transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's another episode of Let's Find Out with Diego. Thank you for taking this journey with me. On this episode of Let's Find Out, we will delve into the upcoming 2024 Full Disclosure Now Conference, a groundbreaking event set to take place on July 15th through the 18th at the Sirata Beach Resort in St. Pete Beach, Florida. The conference promises to be a platform for experiencers, remote viewers, and whistleblowers to come together and share their experiences, insights, and to seek out the truth. Our guest is the co-host of the Disclosure Now YouTube channel with the mission of forcing the disclosure and exposure of secret space programs, military abduction programs, and super soldier projects. All this plus more. Please welcome to Let's Find Out a new friend to our show, Brian Tseng. Brian, my friend, welcome to Let's Find Out. You're a very busy man, and thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
Absolutely, Diego. My pleasure. That's why we're here, for the disclosure movement. And, getting to meet people in our community like yourself who've been doing the work of disclosure already is more than a pleasure. Part of the busyness that you just mentioned is that I'm reporting from you here at the 2024 Contact in the Desert event. This is their 10th. And I see it kind of as a sister event to us. Out there at the 2024 Full Disclosure Now conference. We're throwing this July in Florida, as you mentioned. Thank you. And also, I consider the Journey to Truth guys, Tyler Koala and Aaron Kuhn, very much bros in the same struggle, the movement, the community. They've been doing amazing work, and I was very happy to be with all our people at the Rebels of Disclosure conference just like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks.
Wow, and quite an action-packed event this weekend. What you're talking about with Contact in the Desert, as you said, it's been going on for about 10 years now. That's in California, correct?
Yeah, it's Southern California in Indian Springs.
And so far, how's it going there?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I've gotten to catch some great presenters like Anthony Peak and Michael Sedona. I know that there's been a bunch more that I've missed, but I myself, I kind of know a lot of these people. I have the honor now and privilege, thankfully, to know a lot of these people personally, and so I'm really here to get to the conference, do the networking and organizing, meeting new people, let them know about my event, and let them know about the disclosure aspects that we cover. I feel we're focusing on that. Not every event focuses on. I think the Rebels of the Journey to Truth guys, especially the Rebels of Disclosure conference that they just did, do an exceptionally good job at this. So that's a shout out to them.
Excellent, my friend. And let's get into something right here, because July 15th is quickly approaching. Time flies by, as you know. And the Full Disclosure Conference, you have some heavy-hitting things that you're about to talk about and expose. Before we get into that there, in your opinion, and this is me asking because I've been keeping up with what you're doing, this is a super huge risk, a big risk, bringing all this information to light, especially in such a big event like this, in the public, if you will. let me try to frame this question.
I'll make it easy for you.
Yeah,
I see the greater risk in not bringing this information to the public. The quote unquote powers that be, the other side, they like to define, the kind of disclosure that perhaps myself and others are going for as quote unquote cataclysmic or catastrophic disclosure. Like it's a space shuttle accident or something. And the thing is that with all the bioweapon terrorism of the last 4 years, and that's still ongoing, I see the need ever greater. I don't like the idea of humanity entering a children of men scenario. On the flip side of that, and we spell it out very clearly in the mission statement for our event, and it's it will be for the ongoing organization, because we're doing a 501c3 and things like that. It's with disclosure, we can now access the truth and get to our Star Trek future. And we're never going to have our Star Trek future without the truth, because could you imagine the ETs granting us UFOs that we could fly in a sub light speed drunk coming out of the bar? You know what I mean?
right.
It's like there comes with that a spiritual ascension that needs to take place. And so I see kind of like it's like a beaver dam log jam, and that log jam is the fact that humanity is still arguing about the non-human intelligences and ETs and whether they exist or not, and if the Earth is round or flat, and that's how far back we are, and that's a low vibration when it comes to the truth. There's a
No,
frequency gap.
it's interesting you bring that because the minute you started talking about what you just did, a whole lot of things started coming to mind. So
Hmm.
one of the reasons I asked earlier about taking the risk, and you said there's always a risk of not giving the public the correct information about these type of events. Forgive the question because it might sound silly. I don't mean to be silly, but have you received any menacing phone calls or messages from people outside of your organization that may not be, let's say, good for
Well,
you to
no,
release?
that's an excellent question, Diego. Me personally, I would have to say no. Well, okay, how about this? Instead of me having the phenomenon of Men in Black knocking on my door or X, Y, and Z, as far as I can remember, because who knows what's going on, right? What I would say is more like this: in this community, there are those who are supported by, they may have been through the programs themselves, and they may still have programming buried in them that causes them to self harm or self sabotage in many ways in their own lives, and then also to attack others who are coming forward with disclosure. And so I would say I'm more getting harassment over social media versus someone, I pick up the phone and someone's like a computerized voice is like telling me, don't go on Diego's show tomorrow.
Right?
You know what I mean? So no, that's not a crazy question, you silly goose.
Oh no!
That's a great question. That's a great question. So no, and here's my perspective on why. I feel that the time of the people doing the work that you and I are doing, 20 years ago, it would have been like whack-a-mole, and we would have been paid visits, and even up to like 3 and 4 years ago. My opinion is that the other side is being rounded up as the Earth enters the dawning of the age of Aquarius. We're entering a higher photonic energy, cosmic energy section of as we rotate around the galactic center. And so, with higher vibrational energies, guess what? Lower vibrational energies are probably not as compatible. They're going to get burnt out. They're going to get fried out. The truth is being revealed. This is apocalyptic, not in a bad way. It just doesn't means the revealing of all, and that's what we're seeing. And so, and then the technology, of course, anybody can, get online and do wonderful podcasts. Now it's the content, and then that's where folks like you shine, my friend. So as long as we stay on the path, I believe that there's divine intervention and protection, because this is a higher timeline and we have free will. And if we all want to have our Star Trek future through an ascending humanity and the liberation of Earth, then so it shall, as above so below, as within so without, so be it. Thank you.
Uh, you said it perfectly. And as you talked about the highs and lows, the frequencies, I start thinking about when there's been times in human civilization where I think we've come close to ascending to something a little bit greater, but then something happens in between to where we go backwards yet once again. Is this something that I perhaps, in my opinion, might be done on purpose? And the second part of that question is with all the different entities, I'll say, or type of extraterrestrial races out there, which one of those are we dealing with? And can you point to a place where we almost got it, but we weren't quite there?
Okay, yeah. So, from my understanding, I think we're in like the fifth try, as it is, from what you're referring to, of like humanity attempting to ascend and then for whatever reason failing or falling short, rather. Not quite, making it over the bar. And this is going back to like before this, it was like Atlantis, and before that, it was Mu and Lemuria, and then maybe before that, there was like another golden age, and there might have been another one in there, and then here we are. This is like number five, I believe. And so, why is because Earth is, and if you go by Elizabeth April, she did a really great video called Earth as the Prophecy Planet, and that really does a great job of explaining how like millions and millions and millions, like it's sounded Carl Sagan, billions and billions of years ago. Apparently, there's a great prophecy in the galactic center that there would be some faraway, distant planet that would have a predominant species that contained the highest vibrating DNA and the lowest vibrating DNA genetics. Okay, here in the physical realm, and this species would be destined to alter the fate of the universe. And in their prophecy, it was positive. And in negative timelines, my understanding is that humanity, we like don't ascend, and we're captured, enslaved by these archonic AI, satanic Luciferian type forces, and remain enslaved. And those are the groups who've been preventing humanity from ascending all this time. And then you got the counter forces there, or really the prevailing forces who want to see humanity, of course, ascend as we should. That's our rightful destiny, and yeah, we kind of need to earn it. But I hate the argument of like humanity's so bad and do we deserve it? It's like we've been under 26,000 plus years of satanic Babylonian money beast system rule. These elites eating our children and shit, like, pardon me, stuff like that. And then people are like, oh, the humanity, it's like, don't tell me about humanity when people are brainwashed, or Oprah Winfrey, like, like that's not humanity. This is humanity at our low point, with all the blinders and slave collars on.
So, in a sense, not to put a religious spin on it, it's almost like how the Christians and Protestants talk about a spiritual warfare type of thing, where you have one opposing, I'll say, team with the other ones battling over mankind.
Oh yeah, and I'm a believer, a follower, a knower, brother. And that's absolutely what's happening. Spiritual warfare is what it's all about. This is a spiritual path. We're not here to make riches and have a pile of gold and a yacht. We're here to spiritually evolve. So it's all about spirit, spirit, spirit. That's why, as above, so below, as within, so without. And Dolores Cannon, I'm a huge adherent to what she says about the ascension. And the two Earths, the one that takes the Christed, path that goes spirals and spirals upwards all the way up to source, back to source God, per the law of one, and then the false kind of Metatronic spiral that for a time kind of looks and mirrors the Christed spiral, but at the end, when it breaks away, it doesn't make it up back to source. It kind of, I guess, spirals back down recursively upon itself. And so that's the split. And that's
Wow.
not, and I don't, it doesn't have to be just in Christian terms. You can look at it in ascension terms, the law of one, a raising of our dimensional consciousness frequency from third density matrix, quote unquote, reality to fourth and fifth. and hopefully upper fifth, right? Not lower fourth, lower fifth. Just because we hit the fourth density, right? We're telepathic, and we're trying to use our telepathy on each other to take advantage of each other. Higher fourth would be, we're all telepathic and we're all vibing and empathic with one another in a society living a level 1 civilization where we wipe out homelessness and poverty and much less cheating each other. And then again, lower fifth and higher fifth, right? And then that's the idea.
Well, let me ask the question this way, because I'm gonna get lost in the sauce, because I got so much I want to ask you. We got a short amount of time.
Sure.
When is humanity, in a sense, a threat to these gods or these extraterrestrials? And I say it this way because that any time where, let's say, mankind gets a little piece of technology, or they do a reverse engineering, right? Normally, it's not used for the betterment of mankind. It's usually gets for something like weapons of war.
Yes.
Is there a reason why perhaps one race absolutely wants us not to have this stuff?
Well, what it is because they've been farming humanity under the Draco Reptilian Empire and these certain agreements that have been in effect until more recently, is from what I understand. So please take that, the exopolitical situation per Brian Tseng, the solar bee, with a grain of salt. But if humanity ascends, right, they can't control us. Like, they all their slaves like literally grew wings and like evolved and flew away, and they're stuck here in their density matrix reality. They're not able to go higher, so they have to basically jump onto our backs. We're like the proverbial unicorns. They've broken our ankles in the stable, and they're using us as they will. And so the opposite of ascension is going, instead of the organic back to God's source reality, is the AI negative matrix quote unquote reality, that false Metatronic spiral. And so that agenda is transhumanism. You're going to notice whenever folks like Ray Kurzweil blab on about the singularity and how we need to all upload ourselves into some computer consciousness with a 0 point, that's a bunch of crap. That's, you'll notice he really dodges a question of the soul. Like, if we, given we have souls, we don't need that garbage. We don't need to upload ourselves into a computer. Why would we? Only people who want to avoid moving on to the higher levels or dealing with whatever is waiting for us in the next realm, according to each their own and our own vibration. Okay, that's up to them.
Actually, not the first time I heard of a whole thing about the reptilians. There is I forget his name. He's got a great channel on Rumble about the reptilians and all, and that sort of part of the explanation. Where are these, for lack of better say, where are they hiding? Because obviously they're in charge of the game. They get to do what they want to do when they want to do it.
They're hiding in plain sight. For one thing, if you go back to that Elizabeth April video, she explains how after so many thousands of years of humanity being subjugated by the Anunnaki and the reptilians on this planet, the Galactic Federation types stepped in to the situation, and they basically chased the Anunnaki away from the Earth. And the Anunnaki were like, "That's fine, we're leaving anyway. We'll go enslave, some human type species on some other planet to get our gold or whatever." They were outie. The reptilians, who are native to this planet, went underground. They weren't the Galactic Federation couldn't kick them off per universal law off the Earth, because technically, actually, the Earth is theirs. They were here first. So the agreement is that they would go underground and not be seen by humanity. That doesn't mean that they can't still mess with and manipulate humanity through so many backdoor channels, like manipulating our so-called human leadership with rites, satanic rites, rituals, to capture their souls and their energy, and cross mating humans with like more high reptilian type hybrid types, so that they can lock in and hold that vibrational energy. And so that's where you get the royal families and Pedowood and Washington, D.C., and the highest levels of power in the Vatican.
No, this is not the first time I've heard this before either, and I'm kind of almost in the same opinion that you are. But
I
let's go
mean, no,
back.
let's put it this way, just for all our listeners out there, there's a reason why that's not the first time you heard it before.
Yeah.
There's a reason why everyone's talking about it with your remote viewers, psychics, spiritualists, victims, witnesses, investigators. Like, there's a reason. Okay.
No, no, I agree with that. I think the veil is finally starting to rip, and people are starting to see these things, whether willingly or unwillingly.
Mm. Hmm.
So let's go back to a time in your life to where right before, I like to say, lightning struck and everything started making sense to you. Where were you at that point in your life? Did you have any type of extraterrestrial or paranormal experiences prior to you diving into this field?
So for me, I kind of joke that I'm like my third eye is blocked. I'm surrounded with people all the time. You can see Bigfoot and shadow people and auras and the future and the past, and telepathically communicate with our dogs and stuff like that. And I don't have any of that. I think sometimes I have stuff in my dreams come to me. Sometimes maybe what I like to I have a knowing. I have a spider sense. I have a sense of if I stay true to the path and the mission, it's all going to work out, and so I don't need to have like psychic abilities, read your mind, remote view, explode your heart, whatever, five finger fist strike, none of that. For me, I think I had a knowing as a child, and that I wanted to make a difference, and then I fell into that whole trying to assimilate into normie society, and all that goes away, and you become a muggle, and then stuff like September 11th, 9/11 happens, and it it wakes you up. It only took me a couple years. When I found out about World Trade Center 7, you know, it's one thing to swallow two planes, two buildings, like two girls, one cup or whatever. But two planes taking down three buildings at free fall, and then you just watch that footage, and it's like you got a real dummy if you believe that was fires taking out a building symmetrically, perfectly at free fall. Like 63-story Solomon Smith building, World Trade 7 Center 7, which was like far away from the towers. It's not like debris from the towers messed up that building. So that woke me up back again. And then that was just so obvious. And then that was me getting at the third density matrix reality of like, the terrorists, that's not real. Okay, then who's behind that? The cabal. Well, wait, who are they worshiping? Oh, wait, that's now fourth density. We're getting into supernatural and demons and spirits. Oh, and then negative ETs and all that. And then we're dealing with the ascension of humanity and telepathy. Now it's higher fourth density into the ascension, the idea that we're going to free the earth and ourselves of all these service to self negative evildoers who are they need to be rounded up and brought to justice, and then we need to have some peace, healing, reconciliation, and achieve level 1 civilization status.
My word, because when you start mentioning that, uh, something formed in my brain with the Earth being one of billions of planets out there. If you use the Drake's equation, all that, I'm not a mathematician, but for every amount of star systems, XYZ is a habitable planet. What is it about this Earth that makes it so attractive for these beings? Because they could be doing this somewhere else too, but there seems
Because
to be a
okay,
concentration here.
because humanity, we've been genetically tinkered with for literally millions of years by multiple ET races. So kind of think of us as the genetic wildlife repository for all these ETs who, in the meantime, some of them have gotten their own civilizations into warfare that literally, wiped out their ability to procreate. And they've now harmed their own chakra systems and soul matrices. And because of the damage that's been done, unless they are able to hybridize as best they can to regain some of the vitality and virility, I'm a real, human male, red-blooded American, unless they get some of that and the emotional intelligence, which apparently, according to many, I'm hearing many reports, that is something that that humanity has, that the ETs very much want and have lost touch with, and they see us as the way to regain all of that. So how important do you think that would be?
That's pretty damn important. Yeah, that's right.
There you go. There you go. And then, and then that
But
repository for all this time has been within the Draco reptilian and former Orion Empire kind of span and under the thrall. And that's going to end. And when that ends, that shifts a lot of balances of power because the Dracos, they're very powerful militarily. But if they can lose this as a linchpin or a keystone planet, which some people refer to Earth, we're a keystone planet, Farsight Institute, for example, and they're going to, Yemi Genet will be speaking at our conference in Florida in July. They speak directly to this. I mean, they're giving some intergalactic updates right now on Farsight Prime. I'll plug them. They are worth every cent of the work they're doing. They are what they're doing to liberate Earth. I'm trying to catch up. That's great. I want to work with them.
yeah, if it could be to yours and my advantage and mankind's advantage, it's very well worth it, as you said. So let's talk about July 15th. It's the July 15th through the 18th in St. Pete Beach, Florida.
Yes.
You have a lot of heavy hitters lined up.
Thank you.
For that event. I recognize I don't have my browser open now because if I have it open now, this interview would be a disaster. So I recognize a few faces, and one in there that really I'm a big fan of because you have Cryptid Huntress on there. She's a phenomenal person, and
yes,
I watch her show. She does great work. And who else is going to be on there?
Laura Eisenhower, great granddaughter of President Eisenhower, where she wants to clarify the record on how, during his administration in 1954, the Greada Treaty was signed with the Orion Greys, who unfortunately, unbeknownst to humanity, were representing by proxy the Draco reptilians. And that deal largely went signed apparently behind Eisenhower's back, so she'd like to correct the record there. Penny Bradley, who, like Tony Rodriguez, also in our lineup, has been a victim, I will say, or survivor of 20 and backs. She's been shanghaied for 40 and backs into these secret space programs and Nachtwaffen, and has had many, many alters through those many, many years. And the reason why it's in 20-year cycles is because the scientists working on the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project, really properly codenamed the Phoenix Project or Project Phoenix, they found that Earth time cycles go in 20-year waves. And so they found the easiest way to do time travel was in 20-year increments. And that's why you've got 20 and backs, for example, and why we did the 2023 Montauk Adventure Tour last summer, because the Philadelphia experiment was 1943, and then every 20 years that ship is apparently supposed to jump around. So it's 63, 83, 2003, 23, and we were right there at Long Island's east end, Montauk Point, right there where Camp Hero is. And the Eldridge, the space rip, one of the places it manifests is in that region. And when we were there last summer, our people who had gone out on a boat and with the psychics and remote viewers, they did detect some interesting phenomenon, but they didn't directly see anything. But they were getting psychic hits, if you will, and ET kind of telepathic communication of there being. The Eldridge was kind of on the other side of a time warp, and then there's definitely weird weather phenomenon and waves and mists and stuff kicking up when they got out there.
And I'm happy that you brought up the Montauk Project because I looked a little bit into this, and embarrassingly enough, I wasn't as familiar with this as I should be. And for the listeners, let's find out. Let's slow down a little bit on this one, because my understanding is that during this time there were some military experiments. Was there some sort of time travel attempts there, mind control, maybe communicating with extraterrestrials, as you said? One of the reports that I saw is that they were using test subjects were being physically mistreated in attempts to reprogram their minds. I mean, there's a lot going on there. How much of that is what was going on? How much of that is just purely
No,
maybe?
I'll make it
Yeah.
simple. It's all real, and the reality is far worse than what's shown in these TV shows like Stranger Things, which is basically was originally supposed to be called the Montauk Project, and then the producers were made to change the name. And the way they treat the kids in Stranger Things is with kid gloves compared to the reality of it. Imagine if instead of 11 getting roughed up and made to psychically kill a cat and then thrown into the upside down by Papa, right? Imagine if Papa was Dr. Joseph Mengele from the Nazis via the Operation Paperclip, brought over here after World War II, and he satanically ritually abused and molested 11, had her do similar to other children there in the programs, and then sent her through the upside down. Now you're getting a picture. And so let me wind up a bit here, back up. With the Philadelphia experiments, really where it kind of started, where the U.S. Navy took Tesla's technology and they took a generator, Tesla generator, put on each end of the USS Eldridge, a destroyer class ship there right off Port of Philadelphia. And Tesla and Einstein at this point, I think it was Tesla and Einstein or Tesla and another prominent scientist, they had backed out of the project because they knew that Tesla's like, yeah, I'm trying to pioneer the science here, but it's not good enough to experiment on humans. Nick has said a human crew, through this stuff when I don't even know. It's like sending something to a microwave oven, like why would you do? So they bowed out. The Navy went ahead, and they did the Philadelphia experiment. It's portrayed in some of these films and in books. It's definitely whitewashed in the Peter Moon accounts for the Montauk Chronicles because he was fed a lot of kind of whitewashed hunk bokum, quote unquote information from especially people like Preston Nichols. I don't want to down on Al Bielek too bad, but Preston Nichols was a willing pedophile participant, Satanist, from all reports, from what I can tell, from all the survivors I've spoken with. Um, yeah, he nasty piece of work there, and he will be brought to justice one way or another. Apparently his 3D body has left this world, but you never know in these settings. Um, but when the U.S. military was able to warp the USS Eldridge through time and space, even despite the fact it harmed the sailors, many of them were fused with the hull of the ship in the middle of warping because they theoretically were able to pass through the hull of the ship, but when they came out of the time warp, space warp, they were fused and most of them died. But having said that, the U.S. military, deep derp state, the cabal, powers that be, they said, hey, we've got a nifty new toy here. They moved that over to Brookhaven National Labs, kind of centrally located on Long Island, New York. And they began doing their experiments with something called the Montauk Trip Chair. This was one of the chairs retrieved from the Roswell crash sites. This is a UFO, smaller chair for grays, and it enhances telepathic and psychic abilities, just like how they use these chairs to pilot the craft and navigate through time and space. And so they found that the only way to get the chair to work, adults didn't work. Children it worked, maybe. And that's if they were psychically gifted. A lot of the children who weren't as psychically gifted or strong or capable that they strapped into this thing died. Okay, it's described as kind of looking like a fancy dentist chair, and then they strap you in with all this clockwork orange headgear and stuff, and they beam sounds and light at you and music, and then meanwhile they literally harm or molest children around you to power psychic energy and blush, while whoever was in the chair was a focuser or channeler to then dial in whatever location they wanted to in time and space to go to. And when they opened up these doorways, the reason why it wasn't just to find out, gee whiz, how do we do this? Unfortunately, the bad guys, the cabal types, utilizing this forward and backward looking glass technology to determine what timelines we're on and trying to shift them, they would do negative time soldiering missions to harm our timeline. Like imagine going out and taking Leonardo da Vinci before he got to invent anything. Well, apparently they did similar stuff. They took out someone like a Leonardo type who would have given us it's either like free energy or anti-gravity or both because they're like interconnected, you know. And they literally sent time agents back, and to them with time travel and cloning and alters and a whole bunch of stuff I just threw in there. But the technologies that they got from ETs and have been abusing, they wanted to put us all on a negative timeline. That's the name of the game. One where they win, where the darkness wins. Like you said at the beginning of this, Diego, it's a spiritual war between the love and light and dark and fear. Well, there you go.
Wow, man, you completely blown my mind with what you just said, and something comes to mind to where we're talking about the sailors being fused to the ship, and we're talking about the people who are being conducted and abused during these experiments. What happens to anybody that survived these awful experiments? I'm assuming you just can't let them go back wild in the wild in the general population. Something has to be done with them. What happens to them after they're done with these experiments if they survive?
So it's kind of like yes and no, because what I'm finding from meeting many of these survivors is that I think the reason why a lot of them have survived and they're kind of quote unquote out in the wild, as it were, is because these are the ones who have some of the more powerful psychic telepathic abilities. They can open portals and wormholes. They contain a lot of ET kind of royalty genetic information and coding, and they themselves are very powerful beings, and so they're still valuable. They can still be taken through time travel and consciousness transfer technologies. And so to get rid of them, what I've been told by folks like John Whitberg, who has suffered through a lot of these programs, he says that as long as they have the original quote unquote you here on Earth, it's like you're the backup original. But once they take you, the original, off planet and you disappear, if anything happens to the you up there and there's no one here on Earth to come back and get the duplicate copy, then it's kind of like you're gone. So that's the best way, kind of the most coherent or cogent summary that I've been able to deduce up to now, thanks to our comrades.
Wow, and well, it's interesting because during that tour you did back in 2023, uh, did you have some folks that actually were witness to this join you?
Yeah. I had I mean, Arkeem Ra is one of these survivors. I could name more. I just forget who I can. I don't want to out anybody. Um, people like Christy, Chastity Campbell, rather. She was there. There were a bunch of people. I don't want to name everyone. Um, but they're on the Montauk Lost Souls of Montauk, our documentary done by a good friend, Michael Roser, of Dark Hour Paranormal. If you watch that, that's a great summary of our tour and then the events of the Montauk Project. And then, how was I going to say? Did that answer your question, Diego?
Yes, you did, my friend. And I can understand why you might not want to go into too much detail about the survivors, but I really respect you for that. And for the listeners to let's find out that want to learn more about what it is that you do.
Oh yeah, here, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I can share this with you.
Okay.
Um, Chastity and Arkeem were having memories together. They were reminiscing, about the horrible times they had together. And someone said, the best way to overcome grief is to try to shift as much of grief into nostalgia as you can. Take the best from whatever horrible situation and memories you got. And Arkeem remembers that they were like locked up in cages together underneath there in Camp Hero at the east end of Long Island. And Chastity was kind of like a newer arrival, and Arkeem was like a little bit older than her. So imagine he's like 8 or 9, and she's like 5 or 6, and she's more freshly arrived. And he'd been through the hell on earth, their abuse for like the last 3, maybe 4 years, and she's bawling her eyes out, and saying, "My parents are going to come get me. They're going to find me. They're going to save me. They're going to rescue me. I'm not going to be here forever." And jaded him, just in anger and rage, was saying, no, you're not. They're never going to find you. You're stuck here like the rest of us. Like you're going to see, and they shared that memory together, and they're crying together. Makes me kind of cry. And he was apologizing to her. He said, "I'm really sorry I said that to you." She forgave him. That's or a happier memory, kind of happy, was the if anyone who studies the Montauk Project, in addition to the imagery of that Sage radar tower, that's where they pioneered like 5G and 6G weaponry, zapping us all, and mind control, mind manipulation, or even death rays. Uh, there's also the Montauk Lighthouse. And at the lighthouse, it's like a cliff point dropping sheer drop off into the water. And further down from that lighthouse, there's an area where a bunch of the Montauk survivors were all together, including Alondra Markman, who, along with Arkeem, will be presenting at our conference in July. They recall, and I was asking them separately and together, they all recall doing quote unquote flying lessons off that cliff. And sometimes the kids like would run off and they wouldn't fly like Peter Pan. Then they'd fall and drop onto the rocks, which is like a 50-foot drop or something. It looks pretty, maybe 40 foot. It's high on the rocks. Like you'd have to run and jump really far to kind of make it to the water. And even then, how deep is it from that high? So, but the flying lessons, what they would all run off and take turns and run off the cliff and fly into the sky and levitate and do backflips in the air like Peter Pan. And so there's a song, literally it's called Lost Boys, sung by like Ruth B or something like that. That's a stolen song from one of the Montauk survivors. It's my understanding. No, I'm not making any copyright claims, Kay. Don't come after me. But and they sing about, hey, Caroline. Caroline Corey is just walking by here at 2024 Contact in the Desert 10. She's an amazing presenter on psychic abilities and ET contact. So sorry, there's break in there. But they remember doing flying lessons together, and it's amazing to me.
That is amazing, and it kind of brings me to, because I know the conference is going, I can hear them in the background, and I know we're going to be getting off here pretty soon. Real quick, you've been around this for a very long time. You've talked to experiencers, witnesses, whistleblowers, and so on. For a person that, let me go back. What kind of advice would you give somebody that has either witnessed something happen or experienced something with extraterrestrials or anything related to what we just talked about?
I love that question. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Normally, somebody would contact. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do they go to MUFON? Obviously, you don't go. You don't go to the law enforcement. Yeah. You don't go to law enforcement.
Okay, so let me jump in there. So I have not actually been part of this community for very long. I mean, on my own, I've been a searcher, a seeker of truth. I want to believe, like in the X-Files. I got to be a background extra once. I was like the Chinese dock worker in by Bulkhead number 9, that ghost dog episode. But it was cool. I got to be, on one of the sets there. So I've been searching a long time. But in terms of really being part of the community, it's only been like since a year now, Contact in the Desert last year, honestly, that I got into the community. And so I've kind of came in with a bang, if you will. And my advice to anyone is don't come in as a fanboy or a fangirl or a groupie. You like watching too much Ancient Aliens. It's cool. Come as someone with purpose. You want to help the cause. Oh, you don't have a lot of money, but you're a writer. Okay, hey, I've got a lot of people who could use some copy editing on their websites who would love your help, or their books, the testimonies they're writing. And if you're a survivor, write up your testimony. First, kind of do like your Wolverine comic book timeline. You were born in 1980 in this hospital, and you went to this high school, and you joined this talented and gifted program in this year. And do you remember being taken away by the men in white vans in this time, from this time to that time? And then it stopped, and then you had nightmares. Get your timeline down as best you can, and then offer your timeline. Write down your summary of what your experiences have been, and then off of that, normally and naturally, if you know, and the more you remember, the more people are going to have these Colonel Michael Aquino memories of being abused by military personnel at certain bases. Get really specific. You want, you know, probably you'd want all this to be unhidden and revealed, and you want justice brought to upon the perpetrators who are doing these terrible things, and you want the healing technologies freed up, so that you know a lot of these people who've been through these programs in the here and now, they're not in the greatest health. They're suffering a lot of health problems from being thrown through stargates and having their consciousness messed with and MK Ultra abused. um, so it's kind of like the 1 2 3 timeline, summary of the timeline, and then your demands for justice and reconciliation from there. And then reach out to folks like me, all the people in our community who espouse the need for full disclosure, who are doing the podcasts, the work that you're doing, the people who are trying to be, they're documenting, all the sightings and where all the bases are, and who's who. The community is becoming quite vibrant. You can find me on Facebook, but I'm definitely being heavily banned, shadow banned, as it were, and my account's always getting blocked and crap by Suckbook, so DARPA book. If you look me up, it's Brian Tseng, BrianTseng. The Solar Bee is my nickname, and somehow if you put Brian Tseng and Solar Bee together, it really helps the algorithm there. Also, my email is brian_tseng@yahoo.com. And then, of course, our website for the conference is fulldisclosuremovement.org. And there's going to be a lot of information there on all the stuff and all the events. And then, any one of those presenters you want to get involved, reach out, look them up, look at what they're doing. Maybe one or more of them are going to resonate more. Some people are going to be more on the ascension psychic side of things. Other people are more on the ET, contactee, galactic federation side. Reach out to the people you identify with the most and you can make the most difference with. If you're an eccentric millionaire or billionaire and you want to make a difference, you reach me. I'm gonna show you. We're gonna. Oh boy, you see what I'm doing with my own personal money. Let's see what we can do with some real money, big boy money. The other thing is, send me a message about how you'd like to get involved on Facebook, for example. So those are some of the things that people can do.
Perfect, my brother. You beat me to the punch. I was going to ask you how the listeners could get a hold of you or find out more about you. But good luck to you in Florida, my friend. It looks like it's going to be an awesome event. And
Thank you.
Please, once the event is done, come back later this year. And I know you'll be going to other places and share more of the stories that you have and some of these experiences that you're having, because we'd love to hear more from you.
Oh yeah. Well, real quick, my one personal paranormal experience that I had is I shook David Copperfield, the magician's hand, when I was like 18 or 19. We went to see him at a show in Atlantic City, and when I was shaking his his eyes turned demonic jet black on me. And it was like he was taking what I'm told by people who understand magic and energy is that he was probably taking something from me, and at the same time, through that exchange of energy, I got to see the truth of him.
Wow. Talk about
Because he's
sleight
one
of
of these
hand.
magicians who quote unquote sold his soul to get, not that you can really do that, but you can make negative demonic pacts to get powers for a time. And I believe he is one of those people. So that's a paranormal thing I've had. And I've had many more. That's the next episode.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But it's another victim of a Faustian bargain, I guess you could say, with David Copperfield, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, hopefully you guys can all make it to my conference. We'll have live stream tickets. I realize not everyone can make it to Florida, on short notice in July. But we have discount rate rooms. They all come with 2 queen size beds. So we're grouping people up who are looking for roommates, cut the cost of your stay in half. They're very, if I do say so myself, have very reasonable admissions pricing and the special event dinners and what's included, with the VIP tickets. So if I do say so myself, we have a free beach weekend sister event, Day of Being 4.0 in their fourth year. It's going to be huge. So who doesn't want to get together for free with 1,000 fellow starseeds and light workers and psychics and shamans and healers, you know, for the weekend, and then have 4 days and nights of amazing presentations, networking, organizing, dances, and dinners and workshops. So please come, and then we've got $55 live streams for all 4 days. So we're trying to bring the best value to the attendees, the presenters, the vendors, and the world. Full disclosure now.
You're doing amazing work, my friend, and I got nothing but respect for you. And I'm definitely will catch up here in the next few months and come back on the show.
Thank you so much, Diego. God bless. God bless everybody.
Thank you, my friend. This has been another excellent episode of Let's Find Out with Diego. Please check us out on all our social media pages, as well as our YouTube, and we're also on Rumble. Like, share, and subscribe also. Let's Find Out is now on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Catch the show on Saturdays at 2 a.m. For more information, please visit kgradb.com. That's kgradb.com. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Until next time, my friends.
Let's find out with Diego, the power of Diego Mania.
All content for Let's Find Out is property of co-host Diego and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, co-host Diego, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.